I thought maybe this year would be different. It was the first week of December, and the lake outside my window had just started to glaze over with ice. The air smelled like pine and distant wood smoke. I wrapped a knit shawl around my shoulders and stood at the kitchen window, watching the wind ripple across the surface of Buchanan Lake like it had done every winter for the last 35 years. This house, this old wooden cabin, it was the last thing my husband and I built together. After he passed, it became my world. Quiet, predictable, safe. That morning, my son Evan called. His voice came through warm and casual. "Hey, Mom," he said. "We're thinking maybe you could come to Austin this Christmas. Jenna's on board. We'll do the big dinner. The kids will love having you around." I didn't say anything for a second. I just smiled. One of those private smiles you don't even realize you're making. "That sounds lovely, Evan," I said. "I'd really like that." After we hung up, I moved around the cabin like a woman lit from within. I pulled out my sewing box and started working on the red scarves I'd been meaning to finish for the twins. I made a shopping list. Jenna liked that expensive Merlot from Napa, didn't she? I'd pick up a bottle. And maybe that fancy lotion she once mentioned. It wasn't about being needed. I'm 70 now. I don't expect to be anyone's center of gravity, but being included, that mattered. It reminded me I wasn't forgotten, that I was still wanted. That evening, I pulled out the old photo albums, the one where Evan's hair stuck out in every direction, and he used to squint every time the sun hit his face. I thought of the way his small hand once gripped mine so tightly when he was nervous in crowds. This year, maybe we'd laugh again. Maybe I'd sit at the dinner table and pass the gravy while the kids told me about school, and Jenna complimented the scarves I made. Just maybe, I thought, this would be the year I'd belong again. And God, how I wanted to believe that. It wasn't what he said that broke me. It was how easily he said it. It was exactly 7 days before Christmas when the phone rang again. I was folding the last of the scarves, soft red wool still warm from my hands, when I saw Evan's name flash across the screen. I picked up, smiling. "Hey, sweetheart, just finished the twins' scarves. Think they'll like dinosaurs or stars this year?" There was a pause. Too long. "Hey, Mom," Evan said, voice a little too careful. "Listen, about Christmas." My smile faded. He cleared his throat. "So, Jenna and I were talking. She's planning this big formal thing. White linens, place cards. You know how she likes everything just right. And well, she thought maybe it might be better if you didn't come this year." Silence. The kind that hums in your ears and presses against your chest. "I mean, not because we don't want you," he rushed. "It's just a lot. And the kids have that flu going around. We figured it might be easier for everyone." I sat there holding the scarf, the yarn slowly slipping from my fingers. I didn't know what to say. "Oh," I managed. "Sure, of course, I understand." He sighed in relief. "Thanks, Mom. We'll video chat, yeah? Love you." "Love you too," I said, before the line went dead. Afterward, I just sat there. The room was still, but something in me shifted. Not anger, not even hurt. Not yet, just something fragile tearing a little at the edges. I picked up the scarf, folded it gently, and placed it in the drawer with the others. Then I reached for the wine I'd bought for Jenna and set it back in the pantry. Suddenly, everything felt like too much effort. Maybe they were right. Maybe I didn't fit in anymore. Maybe I never really did. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, whispering things I didn't even know I needed to hear. "It's fine. I'll be fine. I always am." But deep down, I felt it. This Christmas, I wasn't invited. And worse, I wasn't even missed. The hardest part wasn't being alone. It was knowing no one noticed. Christmas Eve came quietly. No car in the driveway, no knock on the door, just wind whistling through the pines and the steady hum of my old heater. I lit the tiny tree in the corner like I always did. Twinkling lights, hand-me-down ornaments, some yellowing at the edges. I poured a glass of cider and sat in my usual chair, wrapped in the same shawl I wore last year. But the silence was different this time. Not peaceful, hollow. I watched the clock tick past 6, then 7, then 8. The phone stayed still. No call from Evan. No quick, "Merry Christmas, Mom." Not even a text. And suddenly, I wasn't just not invited. I was invisible. I tried to distract myself, pulled out an old movie, the kind we used to watch together. It's a Wonderful Life. But when George ran through Bedford Falls shouting Merry Christmas, I just felt tired. I turned it off halfway through. I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, then closed it again. I wasn't hungry. Instead, I wandered into the hallway and stared at the photo wall. Evan at 6, missing his 2 front teeth. Evan at 16 in his prom tux. Evan with Jenna, beaming, holding their first baby. I raised him with everything I had, every ounce of love, every dollar, every night waiting up when he was late. And now, I wasn't even worth a chair at the table. I went to bed early that night, curled up under the quilt I'd made years ago from scraps of Evan's baby clothes. I held onto the fabric like it could still remember the boy who used to run into my arms without hesitation. I didn't cry. Not really. Just let the ache settle into my bones like cold air through a cracked window. That was the night something inside me quietly unraveled. Not in anger, not in rage, just in silence. The kind that only comes when you realize you've been left behind. I thought I was leaving behind something for him. Turns out, he'd already left me behind. The morning after Christmas, I woke up before the sun. The lake outside was still, frozen like a photograph. I made myself a cup of coffee and stood at the window, staring at nothing in particular. My chest felt tight, but not in the way that makes you cry. It was quieter than that, heavier. Around 10, Jim stopped by, an old friend of my late husband. He brought cinnamon rolls like he always used to. "Merry Christmas, Marilyn," he said, handing me the box with that crooked little smile. "Heard you were spending it solo this year." I managed a chuckle. Guess I'm not on the guest list anymore. He sat at my kitchen table, same chair he always took. We talked about everything but what hurt. That's the thing about old friends. They know how to step around pain like it's a sleeping dog. Then, somewhere between coffee and the last bite of pastry, Jim glanced around the cabin and said, "You still thinking of leaving this place to Evan?" I blinked. "I mean," he continued, "I know that was the plan, just wondering if he still wants it." I didn't answer right away. I looked around, at the pine walls, the faded photo of my husband fishing off the dock, the shelf Evan built for me when he was 12. Does he want it? Does he even remember it? Later that night, I opened the drawer in the hallway and pulled out the will. Evan's name was right there, bold, clean, certain. I had written that document 10 years ago, back when I believed things would never change. That family was unbreakable. But now I saw the truth for what it was. He hadn't just shut me out of Christmas. He had slowly stepped away from everything that made him my son, and I had been giving and giving, thinking it was love. But love is supposed to go both ways. That night, I didn't cry. I just sat with the truth. And for the first time in a long while, I thought, maybe he doesn't deserve this place after all. I didn't raise my voice. I just took my name back. That week, I didn't talk to Evan. I didn't need to. Instead, I pulled out a folder from the drawer, one with the lawyer's number on it from when I made the original will years ago. His name was Jeff Turner, kind man, called me ma'am even when I told him not to. I left him a voicemail. "Hi, Jeff. This is Marilyn. I think it's time we make a few changes." That evening, I sat at the dining table with a cup of tea and the will in front of me. I looked at the line that said, "To my beloved son, Evan," and just stared. There was no anger, just a kind of clarity I hadn't felt in years. He had made his choice, and now I was making mine. The next morning, I called the real estate agent. The lake house had been appraised at $415,000 the year before. I told her I was ready to sell. No hesitation, no long stories, just, it's time. I didn't tell Evan. I didn't owe him that. The house sold in 3 weeks. A young couple bought it. Teachers, newly married, planning to start a family here. I liked that. I liked the thought of new laughter echoing in these walls, not the echo of silence. With part of the money, I made a donation to the town library. My late husband had read stories to kids there every Saturday before his heart gave out. They'd been struggling to stay open for years. I wrote the check, signed my name, and whispered, "This is what legacy looks like. No revenge, no shouting, just redirection." People think power is loud, but real power, it's quiet, it's measured. It's a woman who doesn't beg to be seen anymore because she finally sees herself. By the time Evan called, too late, the house wasn't mine anymore. And for the first time, that didn't hurt because I wasn't anyone's afterthought. I was my own. Some victories don't come with applause, just peace. The lake house is gone now. I watched from across the road the morning the moving truck pulled in. The new owners waved when they saw me sitting on the bench. I waved back. They don't know me. They don't need to. I live in a small apartment now, just off the main street, walking distance from the library. It's nothing grand, 2 rooms, lots of sunlight, but it's mine. Every corner of it feels earned. Some mornings, I volunteer at the front desk of that same little library. The kids come in after school, loud and messy, dragging backpacks and snow-covered boots. They make the place feel alive again. I like that. Evan hasn't called again, not since the message he left when he found out the house was gone. "Mom, why didn't you tell me? That was supposed to be ours." I didn't answer. What was there to say? I don't hold anger in my heart. I truly don't. But I've learned that not all silences need to be filled. Some are there to remind us of what we tolerated for too long. I've stopped asking myself what I did wrong, stopped wondering if I should have raised my voice, pushed back harder, tried one more time. Because I did try. For years. Quietly. Lovingly. And when that stopped being enough for him, I chose to make it enough for me. I walk more now. I sleep better. I laugh, really laugh, with people who show up when it matters. And on Christmas morning, I sat by my little window with a cup of cinnamon tea and a wool blanket around my shoulders. I watched the snow fall and felt content. No place settings, no forced smiles, just warmth and quiet. And the knowledge that this year, finally, I gave myself the peace no one else was offering. And that, to me, was more than enough. If this story found you, maybe it was meant to. I know this one wasn't easy. Maybe you saw yourself in Marilyn. Maybe you've sat in that same quiet house, wondering how love could grow so distant, so polite it disappears. But if no one has told you lately, you matter. Not because you give, not because you sacrifice, but because you are still here. If you've ever been told you don't fit in, if someone once made you feel like a guest in your own family, I hope you know this. You don't need anyone's permission to take up space. If this story touched something in you, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me about the moment you decided you were enough. Drop your story in the comments. You never know who might need to read it. And if you're still healing, you're not alone.